My name is Daniel Coleman, and I am 38 years old, though most people in this town only know me as the quiet father who drops his daughter off at school every morning and works odd hours at what they think is an insurance office, and none of them know that I am actually a federal agent embedded deep undercover to expose a corruption ring bleeding through the local sheriff's department, funneling drug money and evidence, tampering through badges that were supposed to protect this community. And that morning started like any other, with my daughter Emily, who is 7, chattering about her science project as we sat in our usual booth at the diner on Main Street, her pancakes steaming while I sipped black coffee and pretended to read the newspaper. When the door slammed open and Sheriff Roy Whitfield walked in like he owned the air itself, his boots heavy on the tile, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me, and I felt my stomach tighten because I recognized that look. The look of a man who had been told something and believed it completely without asking a single question, and he strode over, resting his hand on his holster, and said my name like an accusation, and before I could even set down my coffee cup, he grabbed my wrist and yanked me up from the booth so hard that Emily's orange juice spilled across the table, and she screamed, "Daddy!" Her small hands reaching for me as the sheriff spun me around and slammed my chest against the counter, cuffs clicking shut around my wrists while the whole diner went silent except for my daughter, crying my name over and over. And every instinct in my body wanted to fight back, wanted to show him exactly who he was dealing with, but I could not blow 4 months of undercover work over pride. So I stayed still. I kept my voice low and steady, and I said, "Sir, you're making a mistake, please. My daughter is right here." But he laughed, an ugly laugh, and told the room that I was wanted for questioning in a fraud case, which I knew immediately was a lie, manufactured by someone inside his own department who had realized I was getting too close to the truth. And as he marched me toward the door, I twisted my head back to look at Emily, who was standing on the booth seat now, tears streaming down her face, reaching out with both arms, and the waitress, a kind older woman named Carol, who had served us breakfast every week for months, rushed over to hold her, whispering that everything would be okay. And I mouthed to my daughter, "I love you, stay with Carol," fighting every fatherly urge in my body to break free and comfort her myself, because I understood that my calm in that moment was the only thing protecting both her safety and the mission that had already cost me so many nights, away from her and outside. As he shoved me into the back of his patrol car, I said quietly, "You have no idea what you just did." And he sneered and told me to shut my mouth. And 20 minutes later, sitting in a cold interrogation room at the station, I finally asked to make one phone call, and when he refused, I simply recited a case number and a name, Special Agent Coleman, badge number requested for verification, and I watched the confidence drain from his face in real time as another officer in the room, one I did not yet know was compromised or clean, quietly stepped out to check. And within minutes, the room filled with federal agents, my actual team walking in with credentials raised, and Sheriff Whitfield's face went pale as my supervisor, Agent Marissa Chen, informed him that he had just assaulted and wrongfully detained an undercover federal agent in front of a minor child, and that this entire encounter had been recorded through devices he never even knew existed. And as the reality of his mistake settled over him, he began stammering apologies, but I simply asked one thing: "Where is my daughter?" And within minutes, Carol had brought Emily to the station herself. And when those doors opened and my little girl ran to me, wrapping her arms around my neck, sobbing with relief, I held her so tightly that nothing else in that room mattered anymore. Not the investigation, not the sheriff's shame, not the federal case that would eventually expose an entire network of corrupt officers using their badges to protect criminals instead of citizens. Because in that moment, I was not Special Agent Coleman. I was simply her father, and I whispered into her hair that I was sorry, that I would never let anything like that happen again. And as we walked out of that station together, hand in hand, I realized that true strength was never about proving power in front of others. It was about staying steady when everything around you demands you break, and about protecting the people you love even when the world misunderstands who you really are. And if this story moved you even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a Reminder that kindness and quiet. Strength always win in the end. And subscribe to Kindness True Stories for more stories just like this one.